So in this recording, we are going to be building this multi-step form. Here is a quick, this is step 2, step 3, and step 4, and that is what we're going to be building. So without further ado, let's get started. First, you want to make sure that you have a server running on your computer. I have XAMPP set up, start your server, so I have Apache running. Then you're going to create a folder with 2 files, index and style. These files are blank at the moment, so once you have these files, you can go ahead and open up whatever text editor you use or IDE. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. So first you need a boiler, so just start with the basic HTML and body tag, and then make sure you link to the style sheet right here, style.css, and then open the style sheet in another tab. So we're going to give some styling to the body tag, box sizing, margin 0, I give it a font family, background, making this linear gradient to the left top. First color is a magenta, second color is purplish, third color is purple, and the fourth color is a dark blue. Set the background size to cover, background position is center, minimum height, display flex, flex direction is column, align items to the center, justify content to the center, make the font color white, give it a padding. Okay, now let's go back over here. I want to get a heading tag and give it a title, then an H2 tag and give that. Okay, next we're going to style the H1 and the H2. First, we're going to style H1 and H2, center it, give it a margin. Then on the H1 tag, we're going to give it a font size of 30 pixels, letter spacing of 1.8 pixels. Then we're on the H2 tag, font size of 26 pixels, font weight is normal. Font family is Courier New. Then we're going to add a form, the action, we're going to put action and type question mark, step equals, and then leave that blank. Then we're going to do method equals post. Okay, now we add a div with a class of form. This is the class name that we're going to use, so let's type that here, dot form steps. Alright, let's go back over here, add unordered list, first list item, second list item, third list item, fourth, and then I add a horizontal rule at the bottom. Alright, next we're going to go over here and style that. So the first thing we want to do is style the form, give it a width of 100%, give it a color that's almost black but not quite, background is white, padding is 0.25, border radius of 10 pixels, border is a light gray, 3 pixel solid. Then we are designing the divs that are in the form, which is any div in the form, and I want it to have a bottom margin of 50 pixels. 15, not 50. Bottom margin of 15 pixels. Alright, we're going to style the H1 that's in the form, give it a font size of 18 pixels, letter spacing normal, then the unordered list. So for unordered list, this is what we're styling now. Display flex, flex wrap, justify content space between, list style type is none, counter reset is LI for list item, font size is 14, line height is 28 pixels, which as you notice is double the size of the font, padding left is 10 pixels. Then we have the form steps, which is this div right here, this right here, form steps, unordered list item, position is relative, and we have some padding there. And then before, we want content counter, which is how we add the numbers. So we're adding numbers using this counter li, then counter increment li. The width is 30 pixels, the height is also 30 pixels, the background is a light purple or pink, border radius is 50%, that's to create the background circle, and the text align is center, and position is absolute. Left is 0, top is 4 pixels. Next we have form steps, form hyphen steps, unordered list item active before, and we're giving a background of purple, darker purple, and then the color is white. Alright, so that is this div right here. Now let's go to the next part. We're gonna make the form, we're gonna make this div responsive real quick. So at media screen and maximum width of 600 pixels. The form step unordered list is going to, the line height is going to be 20 pixels. Padding left is 10 pixels. The list item is going to have position of relative and some different padding settings. And before is going to be a width of 24 pixels and a height of 24 pixels. Okay, looks like we're done with this styling of this div right here. So we're going to add a new div and we're going to give it ID of form. And this is going to be 4 steps, so I'm making 4 comments. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. And each of these steps are going to have a div. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, so now we want to begin with this div right here. But first let us add a style for this form. Alright, so I have form is going to be left aligned with a width of 100%. And then I'm going to put a button right at the bottom of this form, I'm going to put a comment here. So we say end. Right, so you know the end of this form is right here. So right above the end, I'm going to put a button. So first we want a paragraph that is centered, and then we want a button, and we give a class name for this button is back, and then we add a link nested inside the button tag, the header, and we add back. Now we have another button under that, or beside that other button. This is going to be type equals submit. So this one is a link, this one is a submit button, and it's going to say next and the arrow key. Now we're going to style this button over here. So first we give the button a margin of 10 pixels, a background color, a font color, some padding, some letter spacing, cursor, border 0, border radius, font variant, font weight of 600, and when you hover, the background color is going to change slightly. Now the back button is going to have a border, and that's going to be 2 pixels. The background is going to be a lighter color. The font is going to be the same as the border. And when you hover, the background is going to change to a lighter color. Now for the back A, or hair, we want to make sure it's the same color as this. So we have the color and text decoration of none. Now for the submit button, we want it to be wide and a normal font weight. Okay, everything looks good. So let's go back over here. And now we're going to work on step 1, which is this right here. Alright, let's add a heading. So this is step 1 of 4, and a comment, and a second heading. So this is heading H3 tag and H2 tag. Then we're going to add a div and give it a class name of input underscore div. And then we're going to add an input tag with the type of text, name, and placeholder. And then repeat that again. The first one is fname for first name. Second one is lname for last name. And then we have date of birth and the H4 tag. And another div with a class of input underscore div. And an input type of date. And the name is dob for date. Alright, so then we can close that div. I'm going to collapse this so that we can see things better. So we're done with step 1. Now we're doing step 2. But first, let's style the form. Add some more styling to the form. First, we're going to add style to the H2. Font size 16 pixels. Now the H3 tag is going to have a color that is a gray color. And we're going to make it uppercase. And then the font size is going to be 14 pixels. And font weight of normal. And the text aligned to the left. Give it a margin of 0. Alright, so next, we're adding style to the class name input underscore div, display flex, width of 100, justify center, margin bottom of 15, text align of center, align item center. Now we're styling the date type date, font size of 16 pixels with a grayish color, and the type text as well as type date is going to be 100% white. Alright, go back to this page, and we're going to be now working on step number 2. So first we're going to give it a heading, H3 tag, step 2 of 4, and then H2 tag with contact information, then a div with a class of name of input underscore div, and then input field with type text and name and placeholder. And then we're basically going to copy this and paste it a few times. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we have 5 total divs here, and these are all text divs. The first one is name email, and the placeholder is email address. The second one is street or address 1, and the placeholder is street address. The third one is the same, but address 2, and the fourth one, this is going to be city and state, so let's type city here. So it's 2 in 1 div. Well, actually, it's going to be 3. City, state, and one more zip. And then this last one right here is going to be phone number. Alright, so we have, in step 4, we have email, street address 1, street address 2, and then city, state, postal code, and then we have the phone number. And then close that. I do have one more for this, so let's see. There's one more, so go to the bottom, and under here, under the last input underscore div, we're going to do an H4, another div with a class called checkbox underscore div, and an input field for the checkbox, give it a name, value, line break, and then we're going to have 4 choices. So in 1, 2, 3, and 4, they all have the same name, and they're all type checkbox. One is value email, then value phone, mail, and SMS. Email, phone, mail, SMS. Okay, so once you have that, then we can collapse this, and let's go style this over here. So we are styling our checkbox. So let's scroll up, input type checkbox, and also the same for radio. We're going to give it an accent color that is different than the default. We're going to style the form H4, give it a dark purple, font weight of normal, font size of 14, H2 and H4, font align left, bold, margin. Alright, so you see the color is purple. Alright, so let's go back to, we're going to be working on the third step right here. Alright, so first we have an H3 tag, step 3 of step 4. We have an H2 tag with a title, then another div. In this div we have an H4 tag, and then we have an input tag. This one is type 0. The name is employees, and we're going to have 3 more of those. 1, 2, 3. All of them have the same name. The first one is value less than 10, second up to 50, up to 100, over 100, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, next we have another set of multiple choice questions. For this, I just copied this, paste it here, and change this, and the name is locations. The values have changed. Okay, we are actually done with step 3 of 4. Now let's move on and do step 4 of 4, the last step in this form. So we have an H3 tag, step 4, we have H2 tag, feedback, H4 tag with comments and questions, and then a new div with the class of input underscore div, a text area with 6 rows, name, placeholder, name is comment, placeholder is enter any comments and questions you may have. Okay, now we're going to need to style the text area. So let's go here. So first we give it a width of 100 and a minimum height of 75 pixels. Now we're styling the input type of text, also text area and the date. And for all 3 of these, we're giving them a light gray background, a border radius of 7 pixels, a border of a light gray, some padding, and let's see with the refresh. And this is what it looks like. These are what. Okay, now what are we doing next? I think we're working on back in the HTML. Alright, so after the text area div, we're going to add a new H4 heading and another div, and this time we're using the field tag for select. So select is the field type. Give it any name that you want, and an option. The first option is going to be the first one they see, so we're going to just say value none. It's selected by default, and it's also disabled, and it's going to be select 1. Next, add another option, and add as many options as you want, because this is just practice, and I have quite a few. Alright, so I added all the options that I want for this, and now I'm going to style this select tag. So let's go over here so we can style the select tag. Alright, so give it a background that's kind of gray, border, and a width of 100%, and some padding, and that should be it. Alright, so now we see this right here. Alright, let's go back to the HTML. So you're going to do another select set of selections. So we need an H4 and another div, and then this is going to be radio choice. So these are not select, this is radio choice. So 1, 2, and 3 choices for the radio. Alright, so with radio, you only get to pick 1. And now we're going to, under here, we're going to add a field for uploading. Okay, so for this one, we need an H4 tag, and then an input field with type equals file, and name it whatever you want. Then we need another H4 tag, and this one is going to be inline CSS to make it a center, align center. And then we have an input type of checkbox, name equals accept terms, and make this required. And then we're going to add a link, and the link target is going to open in a new window, and it's going to say I accept the terms and conditions. Okay, so now we need to style this section over here. So back in the style sheet. So first we're going to search for this, and we're going to add to include the link. So the link color changes. That's right here. So now you see the link color is a different color. Then over here in the style sheet, we're going to edit form H4 link A, which is A for link. Text decoration as none. And hover, when you hover, you want the text decoration to be underlined. So if you refresh the page, see. Alright, so believe it or not, we are done with the HTML part of this. And now we're going to turn this one page into multiple pages. And for that, we're going to be using PHP. And to do that, we're going to do something very simple. We're basically going to create conditional statements, and they're going to say if we type in here question mark step equals 1, then we know we're on this step. And then if we type step equals 2, then we'll be on this step. And to see that in action, I'm going to show you. This is one where I've already done that. So as you can see, we are on step 2 with contact. We hit next, and now we're on step 3, and then we're on step 4, and then we submit. So that's what we're going to be doing now, is transforming this form into a multi-step using PHP. So we finished the design of our form. Now let's split the form up into parts so that we can create a multi-step type of form. So let's make another file, and let's call this functions. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the steps, each section, step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4, and we're going to create a function for them. So to do that, we type function, give it a name, and then return. And what we're going to return is the code right here. So repeat that with each step. So we have 4 steps. We have 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to go over here and grab step 1, cut it and move it in here. And then we're going to repeat that with each. So you cut it from here and paste it in here. And at step 2, now we have 3 and 4. Cut, paste, collapse, and finally 4. Cut, paste. Alright, so let's go back here, and as you can see, we no longer have any of the steps. So to see one of the steps, we want to create a conditional statement which says if we are, like, say this in the link, we type question mark step equals 2. So if it says step equals 2, then we want to use the function that is called step 2. So I'm going to type that here. So say if, actually first, let's go to the top, and we have to include this function. So type php include functions.php. And then we want to create a variable, and I'm going to call it step. And step equals get step, which is this, the address right here. And to eliminate this error, we're going to make this conditional. So we're going to say if is set step equals, right? And now you see the message goes away. So that is a long way. I feel like if you're a newbie, it's easier to understand what's going on using the if statement. But the better way to write this if statement, the same condition, is to say is set question mark, and this is the equivalent of if is set step. That's basically equivalent of, it's the equivalent of that, but you also have to add an else statement. So to add the else, you do a colon, else step equals, and I'm going to say 1 because that would mean you're on the first page. So to see this, just to test, we're going to type question mark equals, which is the equivalent of echo, step, question mark equals step, refresh the page, and you'll see we are on step 1 because that's the default. Now if you do, then it changes, and then 3. Okay, so after we establish what step we're on, let's create a function that says show step. And I'm going to move this conditional statement in here, and we're going to use switch because it's just easier. And switch just basically says check for these conditions. So it's a function in PHP called switch that basically says check for these conditions. So we're checking for step right here. So what is the value of step? It's a shorter way of writing if statement. So we used to do it like if is this, then do that. Else if is this, then do that. Else if. And so now with switch, we don't need a bunch of else if statements. We just need to say check for this condition, which is step, and then based on the condition, this is what we're going to do. So we begin with case, and the case is 1. So case 1, case 2, case 3, and case 4. So we have 4 cases, case 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we type colon for it that says basically if this is the case, then this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to put step underscore 1, which basically is saying use this function. And for case 2, we use function 2, 3, and 4. And then we, after that, break. And since all of these functions are returning, you could change this to echo. So yeah, let's change this to echo instead of return. Echo, 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 and one more. Function 4, echo. Alright, so now we're going to use this function. So in this form, we're going to do PHP. And now let's go here. You can test it. So we're on page 1. And if we type a step, then you'll see that it changes. So that's step 1, 4. What happens if you type 5? You get nothing. So let's create a default. So under the last case, let's add a condition called default and see if that gets rid of C. Alright, so now if you type 5 or 22, it still defaults to the first, to number 1. Okay, now I'm going to move this function into this file right here. So I'm gonna Control X, cut it, and move it under the last function here. Alright, great, we're doing good. Now, what we need to do is make these buttons show different values and different buttons based on the condition. So we need a function to do that. So let's create a, well, you don't have to create a function, but it just makes your code organized when you create functions. So I could have just typed this out, the PHP, without creating functions, but this is just a way to organize your code by creating functions. So we're going to create a function that handles the buttons. So I'm going to go back here, let's say function, and let's call this buttons. So on the first page, we only want to show next but not back. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a function that includes all the buttons, and then I'm going to create conditions that will show or hide the buttons based on what step we're on. So let's grab the buttons, which are right here, and I'm going to type echo, and I'm going to paste that code in here. Alright, so there's also, no, so I was going to include the submit button, but there's only one page that needs the submit button, which is for step 4. We are missing a submit button, and we forgot to put it in. I guess we forgot to add the submit. So let's go here, function 4, and under the terms, add this code right here, which is button with the class of submit, type submit, name submit. Alright, now you see it's right there. So let's go back to step 1, and we want the buttons to show up. So let's move this into the functions folder and move it above all the other functions. So this will be the first function, buttons, and then copy that and include it here. So where it says echo at the end of the line, you're going to add a period and use that function. Let's test it out. I'm going to change this to say return. Alright, so change that to say return and not echo. And then here, so you can add this to all the other functions too. Step 2, go to the end of step 2 and add buttons. Do the same with step 3 and step 4. So the buttons are showing up on each page, but we're still not set up to navigate. So what you want to do is begin with step 1, and on step 1 we do not want this back button to show. So we got to make this back button conditional. So let's say if, first we got to take an argument, and we're going to take the argument of step, and we're using this, where are we using this? Step 1. So let's say, let's add the argument, well, we're taking a parameter, we're adding a parameter, and then we add the argument here. So the argument is 1. So this is the parameter that we just added, and now we're going to say if step is greater than 1, then we're going to return this right here. And else, we're going to return the same thing, but without the back button. So I'm going to just copy all this, and I'm going to remove the back button. So now let's test it. Alright, so I'm on page 1, I tested it, and we do not have the back button. Now let's add the arguments to step 2, 3, and 4. So argument for 2, argument for 4, and argument for 3. Alright, so let's go to page 2 to verify that we have both buttons. Okay, that's good. Now, I have a third condition, and since I have 3 conditions, I'm actually going to change this to switch. So we're going to use switch instead of if else, and else if. So the condition, again, we're looking for is the step number, and we have 3 cases here. The first case is step is greater than 1, and I'm going to move this down here. And then the second condition is going to be if it's greater than 3, and that's because 3 is the, or you can put 4, greater than or equal to 4. So case number 2 is going to be if step is greater than or equal to 4, then we're going to do the opposite. We're going to have, instead of removing the back button, we're only going to show the next button. So here you have that in the next one. You can copy this and remove next. And then this condition right here is if step is equal to 1, then you're going to return this. And so this right here, I'm going to delete all this. So here's the switch. If it's greater than 1, then you show both buttons. If it's, I'm going to move this up actually. No, I'm going to leave it. Alright, so if it's greater than 1, you show both buttons. If it's greater than or equal to 4, you show only the back button, but not the next button. And then if it is equal to 1, you show the next button, but not the back button. So those are the conditions. So if we go to step 4, we're seeing a button that we shouldn't see. So what did we forget? Alright, the reason that you're saying that is because of this. So if it's greater than 1, it automatically shows this. So what we're going to do instead, we could do an end statement. So we could say and less than step is less than 4. And that will solve it. This way works, so let's just do it like that. So step 3 and step 4. I want this to go somewhere else. Alright, I just moved it over here. You can move it here. Alright, so we're not going to add break in here like we did before. So that works. So now where the back button takes us. So I'm going to do some inline calculating. So back is going to be step -1. And so if we refresh this page, I'm on step 4 right now, and it's not going to show because I need to copy this and paste it here. Alright, so now I hit the back button and I'm on page 3, step 3. I hit the back and now I'm on 2, and I hit the back and now I'm on 3. Alright, so the next button is the same thing except, no, the next is stays as it is actually, except we need to, on the form, this needs to be dynamic. So we can add this here, action equals step. So we're going to do a short statement. So we're going to say if it's set, we're going to say is set, get step, then action equals, and I'm going to copy this, get step +1. And then our else statement is, we don't need this right here. Our else statement is else action equals 1. So if we have a get in here, then action is going to equal the step +1. And if we don't have it, the action is going to, we're going to make it not 1 but 2. Action is going to be 2, because that would be step 2. So then we go down here, and where we have action, and type $equals action. So it's the shorthand of echo, basically. Oh, my bad. You don't need this parenthesis. So you're going to get this error because it does not recognize, even though it's a number, it still sees it as a string. So the way to fix that is to add int to make sure you define the data type of this value is int. And once you do that, you'll see that when you hit next, it goes to step 2 here, step 3, and step 4. Now, when you get to the last step, you don't want it to go to step 5. So to make sure that when you're on the last step, it doesn't go to step 5, I'm going to make another statement, and I'm going to nest this into the first condition. So first, we're going to check is it if is set with this right here, and this is greater than or equal to 4, then action equals 1 else, and I'm going to move all this in here. And now let's test that out. So let's go back to step 4, and now we're going, you have to refresh, I had to refresh the page, but now when I go to the 4th step, the action is takes me back to the 1st step. So here, and now we're on the 4th page, and I hit submit, and it takes me back to the 1st page. So we're not going to be on page 5 or step 5 because there is no step 5. Alright, we are really almost done here. The only thing left to do now is make these circles change depending on what step you're on. So the first step is step 1, and currently this is not dynamic, so we want to make these circles dynamic so they change the background color based on what step you're on. So just like always, we're going to create a function to handle this. So let's find the section where we have the steps. Instead of this, we're going to say active class is the name of this function, and we're going to use this right here. Right, so use it right there, and then we're going to take an argument. So we add a parameter, and this is going to be the step. And right here, I'm going to change this to say action. And the conditional statement is going to say if action equals step, then we're going to echo something. So action equals step, which is this right here. Actually, we're going to use the regular if statement. So if action equals step, then we're going to echo class equals active. Alright, so now in here, let's paste this. Actually, we can just copy this and then replace all those with that and add the arguments 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's basically saying if this argument matches the step that's in the URL, then it's going to echo active. So let's refresh this page, and they're all, so something is wrong, so let's go fix that. Alright, so basically you need to add you need to have 2 equal signs so that it's a literal. So if it needs to consider it a literal. So if action is equal to step, then you echo that. So let's go back. Sometimes that doesn't work. Step 3, step 2, step 3, step 2, and step 1. Okay, so it looks like we are done. Let's go to the beginning just to double check, make sure we didn't forget anything. So we're in step 1, and step 2, and step 3, step 4, and we are all set. In the next one, in the next tutorial, we're going to be taking the data that is in this form and adding it to a database. So if you want to know how to do that, then stay tuned and watch the next one where all of this information gets stored into a database.